This guy ends up in the hospital after taking down a group of monsters in another dimension. He has just awakened his powers and completely exhausted his energy during the fight. So the doctor tells him that he needs to rest to recover. But the moment he is left alone, a dark presence appears and wakes him up. It tells him to become strong enough to be worthy of its power. Lee is not excited about this at all. He starts thinking about how to get rid of it, but that only makes the presence angrier. It is fed up with his weakness. The Shadow Monarch lifts Lee into the air and throws him directly into a portal, warning him that if he does not reach rank D in 3 days, he will be completely erased. Lee cannot understand why he ends up in a cave instead of a comfortable hospital bed. He soon realizes the truth. He has been teleported to an insect nest in the other world to train, and honestly, he cannot help but wonder why life is always so cruel to him. His parents died in an accident while working for a corporation. Instead of receiving compensation, he was forced to pay off their debts. With no options, he took the most dangerous job possible, working as a miner in the other world. Just when he starts getting used to that life, everything falls apart again. During a mission, humanoid monsters appear and massacre most of the miners. When the monsters blow up their truck, Leon notices something important. They are afraid of fire. Using that weakness, he helps the remaining miners escape. They retreat into a storage cave and begin burning oil to block the entrance. The company is contacted, and a rescue team promises to arrive in 2 hours, but the nightmare does not stop. The batteries in their protective suits begin to run out. The strongest miners band together and steal batteries from the weak and the elderly to save themselves. Lai is beaten and left behind to die from radiation. Then, another miner tries to escape using the truck. He accidentally drops a statue from the back, extinguishing the fire at the cave entrance. That is when the monsters break in again. One of them smashes the statue and grabs Lee, stabbing him. Even so, Lee refuses to give up and bites the monster with his last remaining strength. At that moment, the Shadow Monarch sealed inside the statue enters his body. With that power, Lee easily crushes the monsters one by one. He even makes the cowardly miners taste their own medicine by taking their batteries and giving them to the few who survived. Then he steps outside using his strength and agility. He forms a shadow sword and kills all the remaining monsters. But compared to what awaits deeper inside this insect nest, this is nothing. The next moment, he sees a beetle with shield-like armor. He does not understand why he recognizes the species, but the shadow responds that it has shared its knowledge bank with him. Suddenly, the beetle charges forward at full speed. He barely manages to step back and avoid the impact. Noticing a blind spot on its back, he jumps into the air to exploit it. He tries to strike, but his attack proves useless. The beetle charges again, and this time he blocks it with his shadow-forged sword. Even so, he struggles to pierce its shell, as it is far too hard. The shadow mocks him, ridiculing how useless his attacks are, reduced to nothing more than brute force. But as he rushes toward the beetle, he demands that the shadow let him fight his own way. The shadow warns him not to come asking for help if things go wrong. He fights the beetle for a while, growing frustrated as he fails to find any weak point. The next strike from the beetle sends him flying back, followed by more mockery from the shadow. Then he notices something green stained on his shoulder. Looking at the beetle, he realizes it is the creature's blood. A smile spreads across his face because he has finally found its weak point. Awakening his shadow eye, he challenges the beetle to see who is truly the weak one. The shadow instantly recognizes his ability. In the next moment, he shatters the beetle's leg. The shadow mocks him for cutting only one leg, but Lee knows that it is enough to create an opening. To finish it off, he needs a more efficient weapon. With his will, he shapes his shadow into the form of a spear and drives it into the beetle's abdomen, which is its weak point. He finally wins, but the shadow is dissatisfied, pointing out how quickly he becomes exhausted after killing only a single armored guardian. Then, a sudden surge of power flows through his body when he finds a gem in his hand. The shadow explains that it is an energy stone, one that can help increase his skill level. Then he senses something, but he cannot see it. The shadow urges him to use his shadow eye, which only leaves him confused. The shadow explains that to activate the ability, he must gather shadow energy into his eyes. He channels it at level 1, opens his eyes, and sees the next enemy ahead, one that throws needle-like weapons at him. He barely dodges them while still wondering what these creatures are. Another attack comes from behind, forcing him to evade at the last second. The strikes are so fast that he cannot even track them properly. Frustrated, he wonders if the shadow eye is not working. The shadow coldly informs him that he is simply too weak to use the ability effectively. Determined, he pushes himself harder, gathering more shadow energy into his eyes. The shadow notices his surprising efficiency in channeling energy, reaching a level that even intrigues it. In the next moment, Lee clearly sees the monster, a blinking sword insect, also known as the head harvester. Beside it lurks a stinger shooter, launching poisonous spikes from a distance. But the real problem dawns on him. It is in the nature of insects to never be alone. If he has found one, there must be more. The darkness thickens, enveloping the battlefield as countless shapes begin to move around him. Now they attack him from all sides as the shadow praises him for finding a position that helps him avoid strikes from all directions. In the next moment, Lee erupts with shadow energy, driving many of the bugs away. This energy is actually the second phase of shadow power, as the shadow recognizes. Shortly after, he receives a notification that his shadow eye has reached level 2, allowing him to kill his enemies more effectively. As he fights the insects, he feels his movements slow down, allowing him to dodge their attacks quickly. Then he notices purple marks on their bodies and realizes these must be their weak points. The shadow confirms this, saying that he can see them because of his level 2 shadow eye. Now he has far more chances to break through their defenses. With a roar, Lei charges forward and activates his Shadow Thorn explosion ability, driving his weapon into the ground beneath his feet. From there, countless shadow thorns pierce upward, impaling the insects. This ability allows him to insert his shadows into the ground and then make them explode upward in a lethal strike. With that, he obtains multiple gems and his progress toward becoming rank D officially begins. However, each core only contributes 0.7% toward his advancement, so he decides to finish off the remaining ones, also determined to end them all in a single blow since he has already found their weak points. With every kill, his advancement progress increases. He is amazed to see how much his abilities can improve, a level increase in his shadow eyes. This power exceeds his expectations. In the next moment, another insect attacks him, but he dodges it at the last instant, earning praise for his quick reaction. Lee then recognizes his enemy as a warp saber worm. Without hesitation, he transforms his shadow into a whip, captures the insect, and pulls it toward himself while daring it to try jumping again. Another swarm of insects appears, firing poisonous spikes at him. He moves forward with determination and, with all his strength, transforms his shadow into multiple whips, wrapping around each insect and tearing them apart one by one. Seeing this, Shadow observes that Lee is finally becoming worthy of his power. After all, the Shadow Eye improves his reaction time, strength, and control over shadows, but it also comes at a price, as the ability consumes immense mental energy. That is why Lee's vision begins to blur as he reaches his limit. Even so, he refuses to stop. Driven by revenge, he continues killing the insects without missing a single one. His mind is filled with thoughts of those who wronged him. His advancement progress keeps rising with every kill, while the remaining time decreases at an alarming pace. Standing among piles of insect corpses, he advances with relentless determination, vowing to bring everyone who wronged him to their knees for the honor of his parents. His progress now rises to 94% toward rank D advancement, but only 2 minutes remain. Meanwhile, Shadow notices that Lee's hatred toward humans is actually working in his favor, nourishing his shadow energy. It urges him to hurry, reminding him that time is running out. With only 7 seconds remaining, Lee finally pushes his advancement to 97%. Shadow realizes what he intends to do, detonating all of his remaining shadow energy in a desperate attempt to complete the advancement. Braver than ever, Lee gambles everything he has, unleashing a violent wave of shadow energy that spreads outward, exploding toward the surrounding insects just as the timer runs out. With a devastating explosion of shadow energy that shatters every insect in the vicinity, Lee finally achieves his advancement. His progress reaches 100% complete and he finally reaches rank D. Shadow, both amused and proud, grants him the mocking title of Exhausted Little D. Lee notices a weapon lying a short distance away. Shadow explains that this nest was used by his people as a beginner training ground, so the weapon must be a rank D dagger according to the human classification system. But when Lee sees the size of the blade, he scoffs. It does not look like a dagger from any angle. To him, it is a massive sword. He comments that the Shadow people must have been giants to consider something so large a simple dagger. Shadow reminds him that his shadow powers do not require any weapon, but Lee, as always, refuses to accept that. With a smile, he pulls multiple daggers from his shadows, clearly intending to rely on both his skills and weapons. Shadow grows curious about whether Lee can actually use the weapon in any proper way. Lee confirms that he does not plan to use it because he intends to sell it, so the two of them head to the registration hall for that purpose. During his evaluation, Lee is shocked to discover that he is still considered rank E. The receptionist explains that no energy fluctuations were detected from him, although his physical stats are impressive. She adds almost mockingly that his minor profession only entitles him to a 15% salary increase at rank E. As he leaves, Shadow explains that this happens because shadow energy cannot be detected. Lee reflects on this, realizing that while it gives him an advantage, it also makes it difficult to sell equipment legitimately. With no other choice, he heads to the black market to sell the weapon. Shadow is particularly amused by the word black, claiming that it suits him perfectly. Lee's smell is so strong from working in the mine that people around immediately recognize him as a miner. Looking at the weapon, Shadow mocks the absurdity of humans, ridiculing how they call something divine simply because it has gems embedded in it. Then, an arrogant shopkeeper sneers at Lee, telling him to leave because a miner has no right to stain his weapons. Lee, unfazed, calmly reminds him that this is no way to treat a customer, but the arrogant man only laughs louder, clearly convinced that someone like Lee could never afford anything in his shop. Then, with a flashy reveal, Lee shows his weapon and demands that the man bring his appraiser to determine the value of his great sword. But the shopkeeper turns towards Suo, who is advanced rank D, while his girlfriend complains about his reason for bringing her to such a shady place. The shopkeeper flatters him, hoping that he has brought something good. Suo offers a sword he plans to sell to buy a car for his girlfriend. The shopkeeper inspects it and confirms that it is a Wind Howl sword, which can boost the attack power of its user. It is even higher tier than what someone at rank D should possess. At that moment, Lee turns towards Suing, who is his ex, and she left him because he had no money and millions left to pay in debt. Now Suo asks if she knows our guy. She makes an excuse, saying he must be her fan. However, Suo does not like someone like our guy calling his girlfriend so casually while complaining about the low level of the place. With that, he activates the Wind Howl sword and charges at him, telling him to get lost with his junk. When he swings and sends a slash flying at Lee, our guy's great sword shatters it in the process. Our guy jokes that he is swinging trash. His girlfriend complains about how he claimed this sword could cut iron and was worth a fortune. Furious, Suo lunges at Lee with his fist ready to punch him in the face. Our guy dodges the punch without any trouble. Determined, he only tries again, throwing multiple punches and kicks without pause. On the other hand, Lee has no trouble dodging these attacks, which are even slower than the insects in the nest. Chuo, however, grows frustrated at not landing a single proper hit when Lee is nothing more than a miner. Forming a whip, our guy grabs his arms while Chuo threatens to send him back to the mines where he belongs. With his eyes glowing, Lee mocks him, saying that like a good dog, he should return to the surface. With that, he throws Chuo downward, which worries his girlfriend. Then our guy throws out another taunt, enraging Chuo even more, who charges at him again, but stops dead when someone enters the shop. This burly man, Wong, is the true owner of the shop. He shows respect to Chuo as a regular customer, but reminds him that fighting in his shop is forbidden. His girlfriend steps in to defend him, blaming Lee for breaking Chuo's sword. This catches Wong's attention, especially since Chuo's sword was clearly broken by the brute force of Lee's weapon. Our guy argues that it should not matter, since Chuo was the one who attacked first. Wang turns to Suo for confirmation, or Xian. As things progress, Wang smiles maliciously, realizing that Li's sword is not an ordinary weapon, so he plans to steal it. Suo will obtain the item, and Wang will receive the money. Pretending to act as a mediator, Wang asks to inspect the sword. Li hands it over without hesitation, but as soon as Wang grabs it, he is shocked. The sword weighs more than 100 pounds, yet our guy holds it as if it were nothing. That alone makes Wang suspect that he might be more advanced than he appears. Deciding to test further, Wang asks how a mere miner could obtain such an item. Li reminds him that in the black market, neither the origin of items nor the identity of sellers should be questioned. Wang decides to let it go. Even so, our guy senses the scrutiny and casually comments that he found it while mining. Wang smiles when he learns that Li is just a miner, so he underestimates the sword, saying it is worth only a few hundred since it has no attributes. On the other hand, Shuo's sword would have been worth 2 million if it had not been broken. He then tries to bait Li, saying that he must pay Shu 2 million for his broken sword and cover the remaining costs. He turns to Shu himself for confirmation, and Shu happily agrees. However, his girlfriend is worried about her car, since someone like Li could never pay 2 million. He reassures her by saying that selling his organs could make up the debt. Our guy, however, understands their strategy. They are preparing to fight, but Li also prepares his shadow while declaring that they are the ones getting themselves into trouble. All the thugs in the room jump toward our guy, ready to crush him. Meanwhile, Wang tells Chuo to head to the tea house and wait until the fight is over, to which Chuo agrees, but before he can even take a step, a thug is already thrown against the wall. Wang warns his men to be careful not to damage his merchandise, as they would not be able to pay for it. In the next moment, they are shocked to see our guy defeat every thug effortlessly. This makes Chuo think that Li has grown stronger from working in the mines. Then Li challenges that useless piece of trash who is grinding his teeth. His girlfriend does not believe in Li's fighting ability, while Shu admits that his strength is enough to defeat ordinary humans, but insists that he would never stand a chance against someone of his level, a level of. With that, he charges at him, but before he can even touch Li, he is sent flying with a single slap. Shu is furious after receiving the slap and complains like a child. He claims he will kill him and unleashes a powerful red attack that Li easily blocks with his shadow. Suo is confused by what he sees. It is as Li has an invincible wall. At this moment, Li is ready to teach him a lesson, causing Suo to cower in fear. His girlfriend refuses to believe that he could be defeated by a mere miner. Without wasting time, Li forms a shadow web around him. Suo, trembling, realizes that Li must be at least rank C or B, but our guy casually tells him that he is just a rank E miner, which this scum refuses to believe. As Li is about to strike him, Suo quickly says that he is a member of the Black Panther gang, warning that if he is hurt, Brother Panther will take revenge. Our guy thinks for a moment and confirms whether the gang is involved in loan sharking. Suo desperately admits it, earning a heavy blow that sends him flying, coughing up blood. Li declares his hatred for all loan sharks. At that moment, Wang ambushes him with a sword, but Li pushes him back with pure strength. Suo, terrified, decides to negotiate. He offers 100,000 yuan to be released. Li mocks him, asking if that is all he is worth. He raises it to 500,000 and finally settles at 1 million if he is released. But our guy has another idea. Since Suo likes charging high interest so much, he decides to give him several slaps as interest. Desperate, Suo pulls out his credit card and offers 5 million, everything he has. Seeing the VIP card of the ONG group, Li immediately understands that Chuo is one of the people who squeeze money from people like him. So he decides to keep Chuo alive for a while to attract bigger fish. He lets Chuo go while declaring that the Black Panther gang has already taken millions from him. So accepting this money is simply his right. Subing worries about Chuo, but she is more focused on the humiliation of his words when he said that Li was just a miner. She expresses her confusion about how Li has become so powerful. Enraged, Chuo vents his humiliation by giving her a hard slap. In his mind, revenge against Li becomes certain, since his money is not something that anyone can simply take from him. He calls his superior brother Panther, twisting the truth by claiming that Lee not only stole the sword he planned to offer Panther, but also swore to wipe out the Black Panther gang. Then he asks Shuo to send over all the information they have on Lee. At that moment, one of his subordinates asks about the plan regarding the people, since they have already recovered the items they came for. He cold-bloodedly and casually murders everyone there, declaring that now there are no people. Finally, he assigns the responsibility of dealing with Lee, whether alive or dead, to his second-in-command. Our boy, looking for work, heads to the Advanced Guild to find a job. As soon as he reveals that he is a rank E looking for a task, all the adventurers around him begin mocking him for being the lowest class, since the guild usually does not bother offering jobs to rank E. The receptionist politely tells him that he has to wait at the entrance right next to the pile of trash. If any party needs someone like him, they will come there to find him. This, of course, sparks another round of laughter and mocking remarks from the others, comparing him to the pile of trash he was told to wait beside. Ignoring the ridicule, he stays focused on getting a task, since the 5 million he earned went straight toward the loan he needs to repay. Suddenly, the entire guild hall is filled with the intense pressure of a high-level aura. It comes from an advanced adventurer, a rank B girl. Whispers spread through the crowd, questioning why someone like her is here. Activating his shadow eye, Lee notices something the others cannot. She shows no killing intent, and her appearance mainly reflects the delicate air of a rich young lady. Her companion announces that they are heading to the Beast Abyss for a rank D task, and require a rank D minor for the job. The moment the words leave his mouth, the pressure of her aura makes everyone step back in fear. Everyone, except our boy, who remains completely unmoved. He quickly realizes that he is the only one still standing. The girl herself notices how little affected he is by her rank B aura. The receptionist, trying to please her, hurriedly shows her a list of available advanced rank members, but she shakes her head and points at Lee instead. The receptionist stammers in protest, saying he has not even registered yet and that it would be against protocol. But the girl simply declares that she makes the rules and chooses Lee herself, leaving with him at her side. The baffled receptionist is left speechless. He has never seen her personally select someone inside the dungeon before. Following Chin, Lee meets her team. It is a well-balanced group. One advanced member, with the Bard class, uses his flute to lure monsters, while other frontline fighters deal damage quickly. This coordination gives the warriors clear openings that allow them to take down the Minotaurs with efficiency. Chin leads confidently from the front as a rank B. From the outside, everything seems to be working smoothly. But Lee's sharp senses detect something strange, as there are more Minotaurs lurking around, making this task far more dangerous than a simple rank D level. He wonders why the others cannot see them. Shadow explains that it is because his shadow eye enhances his sensory perception far beyond that of ordinary humans. Lee considers that Chin, being a rank B, should have sensed the same presence, yet he assumes she is deliberately hiding it. At that moment, Chin's companion reminds her that the starlight crystal is beneath them. Then, she asks Lei to accompany her. Sensing the eerie aura emanating from her, he assumes she does not care about the life of a minor, or even that of her own teammates. She only trusts in her power to face whatever threat waits below. In the next moment, both of them jump down and land in front of a rank D Minotaur brute. She steps forward, drawing her sword, and Lee prepares to see how a rank B fights such a beast. But then, to his surprise, she retreats behind him and orders him to handle it instead. He turns to her, reminding her that he is just a minor, but she pleads again, pushing him forward. He firmly repeats that she is the rank B, while he is only a rank E minor. He does not want to fight because he is only paid a minor's wage, and risking his life for that makes no sense. Then she promises to pay 1 million, and he agrees to do it for the money. He activates his shadow aura and forges a sword in his hand. In the next moment, he stands before several rank D Minotaurs. He blocks one of their attacks, while 2 more lunge toward Chin, but he is determined to protect her for the money. To his surprise, she immediately activates her power, forcing the monsters back. When a Minotaur leaps down to attack her from above, Lee swings his great sword and knocks it away. He asks if the monster hates her face, which makes her cry as she declares that the beasts are her responsibility. Lee cuts down the minotaurs with expert precision, giving Chin a brief sigh of relief as she thinks she is finally safe. But she is wrong. Another minotaur attacks her from behind. She wonders why she is not afraid, but Lee is baffled by her. Clearly, she has the power to fight these creatures and yet trembles in fear before them. The Minotaur's strike lands on her bracelet, releasing a powerful red shield that repels the beast. However, the bracelet shatters in the process. Upon seeing this, Lee immediately recognizes it as a protection amulet and concludes that she must be an advanced non-combat type, which she confirms. Then she begs him to keep this a secret. He agrees on the condition that she pays him extra. Still, he expresses his curiosity about why the Minotaurs are attacking only her. To find the answer, he activates his shadow eye and notices a figure in the distance, someone controlling the Minotaurs with a flute. He could not sense the presence earlier due to the enemy's suppressed aura. Chin asks for help, and he attacks another creature, but it turns into an endless cycle, as more appear after each one is defeated. His area of effect abilities are out of the question due to Chin's close proximity. He begins to worry that he will be exhausted to death at this pace. Then he stops, thinks clearly, and realizes that his true enemy is behind the scenes. He decides to use her as bait while forging shadow chains beneath his feet. He warns Chin to stay alert in case of an ambush, especially since her protection amulet is broken and she cannot fight. Meanwhile, he binds the Minotaur's legs with shadow chains. Chin worries about why he has revealed so much of his secret out loud, not realizing that she is the bait. The enemy falls for the trap and appears behind her, confident that she is defenseless. He raises his sword and tells her to blame her father for her fate. Before the strike lands, Lee saves her. Then he reveals that the culprit behind the Minotaurs is controlling them with infrasonic waves through his flute. Chin is shocked to see Ludon, her teammate, standing there. Ludon smiles mockingly at how he was tricked by a mere minor, but declares that it is not over. He activates his power, absorbing energy from all the surrounding Minotaurs. The air thickens with his aura as he prepares to reveal his true strength. Watching closely, Lee concludes that Ludon must be rank C, while Shin quickly understands his strategy to increase his power. The next moment, lava surges beneath his feet, and he realizes that Ludon is evolving into a lava Minotaur of rank C. Nervous, he thinks about how Ludon's almost cheating level power makes him far inferior to his new enemy. Soon, the fully evolved rank C lava Minotaur stands before them and immediately attacks. With no choice, Lee forms a shadow shield around them, but the beast's destructive force is overwhelming and shatters the shield instantly. He understands that the two of them are no match for such a monster. Kia notices the burn marks on his body, but he says nothing. With no other option, he grabs her hand and pulls her to run with him. To keep the Minotaur back, he binds it with shadow ropes, though he knows he will not be able to hold it for long. Once they reach a safer distance, he urges her to get as far away from the dungeon as possible. Concern flickers in her eyes, but he tells her that he must stay behind to buy time. She still hesitates, but he reassures her, promising that he will return. After all, he still needs to collect his million. Finally, she heads toward the entrance. At that moment, Ludon, now in Minotaur form, searches for them. He shouts, demanding Chin's location. Furious, he turns toward Lee. Our boy dodges the attack while taunting him, keeping him guessing. He strikes Ludon's shin only to realize in shock that there is not even a scratch. His body feels like solid rock. Ludon responds mockingly, saying that a blade cannot cut him, as he has truly become stone. All the while, he attempts to deliver a devastating blow. Lee's mind races, concluding that defeating him while surrounded by lava is nearly impossible. He immediately runs, drawing Ludon away with the goal of leading him to open ground. Ludon continues mocking him for fleeing, but Lee stays focused on finding his weak point. Activating his rank C shadow eye, he carefully scans Ludon. The monstrous figure attacks again, determined to kill him first before going after Chin. That reckless aggression gives Lee the chance to finally detect the weak point. He slips behind Ludon, but Ludon proves clever enough to anticipate his move. Streams of lava surge forth, covering the vulnerable spot. With a cruel laugh, Ludan taunts him, boasting that he knows exactly what Lee is thinking, before hurling molten force at him. Exhausted, Lee feels the crushing weight of a true rank C's power. Ludan rushes forward, determined to finish him. He grips his sword, waiting for the right opportunity. Ludan mocks him for not running like before, confident that this fight is pointless, but Lee continues pressing forward with relentless attacks, even though every strike seems useless against the creature's rocky body. Ludan unleashes his attacks at him. However, that moment of arrogance opens a small opportunity. Lee leaps into the air, aiming directly at the weak point. Heat explodes violently like an overwhelming wave, burning from the protected spot. His shadow energy falters under the intense pressure, forcing him back. He crashes to the ground, internally acknowledging the sharpness of his opponent. Ludan admits that Lee has found the weakness, but taunts him further, saying it is unreachable beneath that hell. Then, in a cruel tone, he demands to know Chin's location. Lee responds coldly, making it clear that he will never trust someone who betrayed his own master for money and fame. Hearing those words, Ludan erupts in rage, charging at him furiously. His opponent attacks relentlessly while our boy dodges every blow, moving purely on instinct. Seizing an opening, he transforms his shadow into a bladed chain and hurls it at Ludan. The enemy instantly recognizes the change. Lee is no longer just defending, now he is attacking. Without hesitation, Lee transforms the chain into a rope dart, launching it directly toward Ludan's weak point. But the searing heat melts his shadow in midair, provoking Ludan's mockery. The monster charges forward again, telling him to give up. Lee grits his teeth, realizing he is consuming too much shadow energy. His reserves are draining, and with them his chances of survival. For a brief moment, he considers asking Entropic for help. The thought makes him shudder. He refuses, preferring to face death on his own terms rather than surrender his body to that entity. Gathering every shred of will, he leaps into the air once more, his eyes locked onto the weak point. The oppressive heat threatens to crush him. The flames of the lava barrier scorch his skin. Still, he refuses to stop. The promise of victory, the experience points waiting beyond this fight, drive him forward. Then he pierces through, driving his shadow-forged spear into Ludan's weak point. The rank C erupts in pain, its roar echoing through the dungeon. But just as its health drops to 0, Ludan's berserker mode activates. His body floods with violent energy, his stats increasing. He hurls Lee backward with monstrous force. Lee crashes to the ground, stunned and confused by the sudden turn of events. Ludan's burning eyes lock onto him in fury as he curses the miner for daring to wound him. And then Lee feels it. The suffocating heat radiating from his enemy growing hotter, stronger, more lethal. Ludan says solemnly that this is his end. The next moment, our boy freezes as he feels a far greater energy surging from his own body. The answer comes from Entropic, who informs him that this energy has always resided within him, but is now tempered by the intense heat of his tactic to bring Ludan down. This forges a new form of shadow energy. He notes that this awakened shadow enhancement ability grants healing power, though only at a beginner level for now. Ludan also notices that our boy is not only healing, but also the sinister aura radiating from him. He immediately attacks Lee without giving him time to recover. Lee dodges at high speed. Ludan is shocked to see him moving fast enough to keep up with his triple speed, making him doubt whether this boy is really just a rank E. Furious, he floods the area with lava to prevent escape. Determined to turn him into ashes, Ludan continues his assault, but Lee remains unmoved. Unaware that the shadow enhancement has formed a protective layer around him, shielding him from the heat. He is satisfied with the beginner-level ability he has awakened, though he wonders what kind of miracles an advanced version of this skill could bring. Then, calmly and defiantly, he mocks Ludan, saying his heat is too weak. Ludan is stunned by this. Drawing his sword, our boy declares that it is his turn to finish things. With a roar, his enemy also charges at him, but this time Lee has the advantage. His shadow enhancement ability boosts his overall stats to 200%. Now his sword can pierce and slice through his enemy's rocky body, who is enraged after losing his arm. He charges at Lee again, but this time our boy is ready, holding swords in both hands. He cannot believe that his shadow enhancement ability gives him enough power to deal damage even at a distance. He sends another slash toward Ludan, damaging his body, but the lava gives Ludan an advantage, allowing him to regenerate his lost limbs once again. Hearing him boast about infinite regeneration, Lee points out that his energy is decreasing. Raising his weapon, Ludan challenges him to continue. Accepting the provocation, Lee slices off his limbs again and again, letting them regenerate each time. But at the final moment, Ludan senses that something is wrong with the regeneration. He tells him to surrender, as he is at his limit. Facing death, Ludan tries to reason with him, saying there is no hostility between them and that he does not need to kill him. Lee agrees, but adds that he was assigned the task of protecting Chin for 1 million. Upon hearing this, Ludan decides to lure him with an offer of 5 million once they return to the city. Our boy pretends to take the bait, knowing it would give Ludan a chance to return with reinforcements and try to kill him. Ludan insists that he is not a traitor, but Lee reminds him that he is, and that he should be handed over to Qin Shaoshang, the father of Qin, for targeting his daughter. Not to mention that Li Yi will be greatly rewarded not only for saving her, but also for delivering this culprit to him. Hearing this, Ludan chooses death over captivity, knowing it would also endanger his family. He declares that Li should not blame him for what is about to happen as he raises a fragment in his hand. Entropic recognizes the fragment as part of the gate to the other world and immediately informs Lei that if Ludan destroys it, the abyss will lose its entrance to the outside world and everyone inside will be trapped forever. Ludan accuses him of leaving him no choice but to act. With a swift move, Li grabs the fragment from his hand and in the next moment attacks him ferociously to kill him. Ludan falls to the ground, leaving an energy core behind. With this core, Lee upgrades his Shadow Eye, which now ascends to the ultimate Shadow Eye. The ground suddenly trembles. Entropic informs him that the abyss is collapsing without the support of the Minotaur's energy. Everyone rushes toward the exit and breathes a sigh of relief after escaping. Kanan offers him a place in her father's faction, assuring him that his abilities will be highly valued. Lee makes it clear that he is not interested in joining any faction. He also asks her to keep his power a secret. She agrees and gives him his 1 million reward. Determined to earn more money, he offers his sword on 3rd Street of Longman. She examines it and notes that although it has no special energy attributes, the material is of high quality. She agrees to take it for appraisal and promises to give him a fair price for it. He happily hands over the sword and says goodbye, already planning to sell her his future items. Also, judging by her knowledge of weapons, he still harbors a small doubt that she might be like Yuo. But for now, he is content with the 1 million he earned. Later at home, he takes out the fragment he stole from Ludan and asks Entropic if it is really important. Entropic assures him that collecting enough fragments will help him reach rank S. Looking at the fragment, Lee reflects on the offer. Unbeknownst to him, Entropic is already thinking about the reappearance of the gate to the other world, meaning that his enemies may still be active. He knows that Lee is the key, because one day they will have to fight creatures that cannot be comprehended by the human mind. Entropic considers telling him now, but rejects the idea, deciding that it is more important for Lee to become strong enough first. Later, our boy goes to the Rank E Rift Zone belonging to the NG group. This rift is currently sealed due to a mining accident. He notices guards, 1 rank B and 3 rank C, standing in front of the rift. He does not believe NG would hire such advanced guards just to watch over a rank E rift. With his current power, he knows that fighting these guards is out of the question. Entropic grows curious about the situation, wondering why such protection exists around a low-level rift. He reveals that this place hides the truth about his parents' death. He recalls the moment he went to the NG group seeking answers. Instead of the truth, they only offered him more money as compensation. He did not touch it because what he wanted was the truth. The manager even tried to use force on him, declaring that his parents had died in an accident in the field. But Lee reminded them that his parents were rank C evolvers. They could not simply die in an ordinary accident. He demanded that they let him enter to verify, insisting that they might still be alive. The NG group reminded him that the Rift Zone is unpredictable and dangerous, even for those of rank C. He protested again, arguing that even if there were monsters, they could not be stronger than rank E. One of the thugs was about to hit him, accusing him of only wanting more money, when the president of the NG group, Ning Dong-hao, arrived and stopped the violence. The president offered Lee 200,000 as compensation, saying it would help him, but Lee rejected the money, wanting only the truth. At that moment, the president promised to investigate the matter, and Lee believed him. What he did not know was that he would soon be trapped in forced labor as payment for his parents' debt. Entropic comments that this is the same everywhere. Without strength, all beings can only be trampled. He tells Lee to gather more fragments instead of wasting time, tempting him with the idea that once he is strong enough, the truth will be his. Multiple thoughts flutter through Lee's mind. His status as rank E that gives him no advantage in forming a team, and his doubts about Entropic's intentions. His shadow promises to turn him into rank S, but Lee does not fully believe it. Entropic shouts at him to shut up, saying that he sees his potential. That is the only reason he bothers training him. Lee casually reminds him that he did not say anything, realizing that Entropic can read his thoughts. Irritated, he calls it a danger. At that moment, a mission invitation appears before him. After seeing the mission invitation, he heads to the chemical sector, which is a rank D rift zone. The manager complains about his late arrival, and he apologizes, saying he was far away. The next moment, he notices a familiar face, Uncle Ho-Oh, who immediately recognizes him and is happy to see him after 5 years. Meanwhile, the other rank C evolved fighters are unhappy, complaining about having to wait for a miner. The manager explains that the mission involves mining, something they do not want advanced fighters to do. One impatient fighter asks for a briefing on the mission. The client has commissioned them to enter the rift and extract 60 kilograms of cold crystal. Seeing the situation, our boy calculates that hiring 3 rank C advanced fighters just for a rank D rift is suspicious, not to mention that none of them seem particularly friendly. He also senses another rank C presence, probably Jesse, a mercenary. Meanwhile, Bood Panther is looking at his phone. His eyes gleam with bloodlust as he imagines hunting each of them down, including our boy. After some time, they enter the rift. Uncle Zhao asks about his protective suit, and he replies that he does not need one, as he is advanced. Hearing this, one of the evolved fighters mocks him, calling him the king of trash, only standing out among miners. Uncle Zhao warns him not to fall for the provocation, and he assures him that he will not do anything. As they move forward, he notices something strange, because the vegetation seems to be deliberately arranged by human hands. Not only that, he also perceives great danger lurking nearby. He also senses a powerful energy, unmistakably from the Blood Panther, who can no longer restrain himself. Looking around, he notices that the nearby mercenary must have sensed it too. He wonders whether the mercenary is hiding to observe them or if something else is going on. The arrogant fighters urge him to move faster, and he agrees. However, our boy plans to use the surroundings to his advantage and investigate. He tells Uncle Zhao to hold on tightly and surges forward at incredible speed, bewildering the fighters. One of them tries to stop him, but another restrains him, warning that he will face danger in another way. Meanwhile, Blood Panther watches the evolved fighters, thinking about how easily they could be manipulated. One fighter senses something dangerous, but their leader reassures them, stating that the mission is only rank D and easy to handle. Another fighter recalls the feeling of being watched and notices the growing sinister aura. Before the leader can reason with them, Blood Panther silently appears behind one of the fighters and captures him. Both recoil in shock, immediately recognizing the threat. They beg him to speak, but Blood Panther cold-bloodedly kills his companion, seeing them as mere nuisances to the Black Gang. Provoked, one of the remaining brothers charges at him, ignoring the protests of the others. His body is instantly caught by Blood Panther's threads, and he is killed immediately, mocked mercilessly by his enemy. This madman threatens the remaining brother to run away, clearly enjoying the look of fear on his face. After putting distance between himself and the brothers, our boy asks Uncle Zhao to rest for a bit. Uncle Zhao is confused by his act of abandoning the brothers. Instead of answering, Lee asks if he has offended any faction recently. Uncle Zhao replies that he is just a miner and has done nothing of the sort. The mission is orchestrated to kill them all. Uncle Zhao is terrified when he hears this, and our man urges him to say everything he knows. At that moment, the remaining brother steps in, accusing him of knowing everything, but not telling them anything, which cost his brothers their lives. Rising from his seat, Li mocks the brother, saying that revealing the mastermind would only make him useful. The fighter does not understand, and Li points to his neck, indicating that he is about to die. Blood Panther finds it interesting, as Li has predicted his movements. Li wastes no time and activates his ultimate shadow eye. Seeing death right in front of him, Uncle Hao immediately begs for their lives, insisting that they are only minors. Blood Panther admits that he has never crossed them before, but a few days ago, in a drunken state, he lets slip that he knows a secret about them. Uncle Ho promises that he will never reveal it. Activating his power, Blood Panther declares that only a dead person can keep a secret, and then attacks Uncle Zhao. Our boy is ready as power surges while he grips swords in both hands. Blood Panther spreads his threads everywhere, admitting that he never expected someone like Li to have abilities strong enough to defeat someone like you. He moves to slash him, acknowledging that Li possesses the only ability capable of defeating Yuo. Blood Panther attacks our boy, but Li has activated his shadow enhancement. He dodges effortlessly, making the attack useless because Blood Panther is far too powerful for him to block directly. Blood Panther attacks again, sending Li flying. Desperately, Li tells Uncle Zhao to stay back, realizing that he needs to change tactics since close-range attacks put him at a disadvantage against his enemy. Blood Panther declares that they will both die, which Li immediately does not agree with. He activates his ultimate shadow, transforming his weapon into daggers. The daggers fly toward Blood Panther, who blocks them with a sneer. Li leaps into the air with swords raised. Blood Panther grudgingly admits that Li's skill is high for a minor, but insists that after breaking his sword, Li is still only rank E. In the next moment, the ground cracks beneath Blood Panther's feet, and a mercenary ambushes him. Li's flexible, serpentine shadow binds Blood Panther, who realizes that his close combat experience will be his downfall. In the blink of an eye, he is killed. Seeing a rank C killed by his enemy, Li feels worried, as he is weaker than that opponent. Knowing they have no other option, he grabs Uncle Zhao's hand, focusing on escaping the area. However, Blood Panther refuses to believe that they can ever escape. A little farther away, he tends to Uncle Zhao's wounds, planning to help him escape at night. Uncle Zhao urges him to flee alone, insisting that he is only a burden right now. He then asks about Blood Panther's reason for hunting him, as it must be tied to some secret. Uncle Hao Zhao silently admits that he knows the truth about his parents' deaths, unconsciously activating his shadow energy. Desperate to know the whole truth, Li presses Uncle Hao Zhao. Uncle Zhao begins to explain that at first he was not sure, but the fact that Blood Panther came after him confirms his suspicion that something is wrong with Quisho. His father had also revealed before his death that this man must have been conducting dangerous experiments in the mining area. The accident happened a few days later, resulting in his parents' deaths, and they were accused of stealing minerals. He is furious that no one told him earlier. Uncle Zhao admits that he could not risk losing his job, as he had a family to support. Li accuses him of letting the truth slip, and Uncle Zhao confesses that the pressure of his guilt drove him to drink and reveal the truth, which ultimately led to the disaster. In the next moment, Blood Panther appears again, his deadly threads trapping Uncle Zhao and terrifying Li before killing him. Uncle Zhao asks Li for forgiveness. Blood Panther, recognizing Li because of his parents, declares that he will send him to join them in the afterlife. A confrontation between the two opponents is already underway. Blood Panther, eager to spill Li's blood, attacks, but Li reminds him that his spider silk is not invincible. He draws his great sword with his shadow morphing ability, waiting for the perfect moment. When Blood Panther attacks recklessly, Li shatters the threads, catching him by surprise. Blood Panther realizes his mistake. Exhausted, Li wonders if he has reached his limit. Blood Panther admits that for a moment he was genuinely afraid. Without his rank E abilities, he would have been defeated. He traps Li with his spider silk again and challenges him to kill him. When Li glares at him, Blood Panther mocks him, saying that he is killing him with his eyes. Seeing the determination in Lee's gaze excites Blood Panther, and he decides to provoke him even more. He darkly reveals that Ju was right about the experiments, but his parents did not die in an accident. They died by his own hands. Lee's face freezes in shock. Blood Panther casually adds that Lee's father had the same expression when he tore his mother apart, laughing at the memory with psychotic pleasure. Lee burns with rage, his power surging.